What is going on, people? Welcome back. We are here. It is August 3rd. And as I promised at the beginning of the year when we started this, we are not stopping. We wrapped season 2 last week when we were doing the our double season 2 and Fantastic Four premiere. And now here we are with season 3 premiere, A Tale of Two Cities, named very aptly after the Charles Dickens novel. And Luke, first things first, did you at all see this open or could have predicted this opening scene, this opening sequence that rolled before the title credits?
I absolutely could not. I was watching it. Oh, okay. I must be watching the wrong show. Like this is something's off. These are completely. At first, I thought it was Penny because she kind of looks kind of familiar.
Yeah, Juliet kind of does
yeah.
look a little bit like Penny.
But then I checked after. She's Mrs. Claus in the Santa Claus movies. That I was like, but really bugging me. I've seen her somewhere, but no, okay. It was kind of okay.
Guys,
we must be off the island somewhere. This kind of some kind of flashback connection, and then they go outside. The earthquake or something, and they go outside, and Ben runs out the door. I'm like, what?
You're like, what is going on? And then it's like, Ethan Goodwin, and you see the plane split up, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. I think this is probably the most compelling Lost opening sequence since the pilot, because yeah, we are about to get into it. I warned at the end of season 2, this is the season with the others. And as far as that goes, it does not disappoint. All of that and more on today's episode of Talkin' Lost. We're also going to be reviewing, like I said, we're going to be going over some movies as well in this episode. The Naked Gun I saw together this week. Wasn't really that big a fan of it. And then, of course, the Netflix phenomenon that has taken the world by storm, K-pop Demon Hunters. All of that and more on today's episode of Talkin' Lost. Stay tuned. So I didn't want to blow our load a little bit too early when talking about that opening sequence, especially since when you compare it to the rest of the episode, you realize that, oh, that opening sequence really is kind of all the episode is. Because the rest of the episode, I'll admit, it's another situation where it's following like the opening of season 2, where it's, oh, we're picking up with the rest of the characters spread out over a couple of episodes. But in case anybody forgot, in the last couple of weeks, there were a lot of strains that were left off. Locke and Desmond were trapped inside the hatch. Echo was God only knows where. Saeed, Jin, and Sun were off the coast in Desmond's boat, and you had Jack, Kate, and Sawyer being taken captive by the others. So this episode focuses exclusively on that after that jaw-dropping opening scene in which it completely recontextualizes your thought of the others. We had previously thought of the others as like these savages, but then we discovered that, oh, that whole savage nature was just an appearance, a front that they were putting on. Were they actually like a little bit more advanced? You know, you saw that as well in the maternity leave episode when they were experimenting on Claire. And Kate finds all the makeup and prosthetics. Now, in this episode, not only do we find out that all of that was completely a facade, but like they had their own like civilization and everything tucked and meshed within the island. Their little gated off community.
It's like a utopia. Almost.
Yeah, they were living in houses. Like you're introduced to Juliet, who is I will say is the third of our major characters, our major group of secondary characters that are introduced that are going to be with us for the rest of the show. Like I said, you had Desmond and Ben last season. Now you have Juliet. She plays a crucial part in this season as an other who is there to serve out the agenda, but maybe this is the beginning of the fact that, oh, maybe not all the others enjoy following Ben Linus. You know, that just there's a little bit of an indication there ultimately. But this episode primarily follows Jack, Kate, and Sawyer as far as what happens when they're being held captive by the others. We see that Jack wakes up in some weird underground canister that he's trying to escape from. He's being interrogated by Juliet about his life. Kate wakes up. She's taken to have a shower by Tom and then brought to have a very nice breakfast with Ben. And of course, she's doing nothing but asking questions. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? What is going on? And she's like, oh, I'm trying to give you like basically like a nice last experience because these next 2 weeks are going to be some of the most miserable of your life. And Sawyer, to nobody's surprise, is being held in a cage, presumably that they were holding the polar bears in. So that's a little bit more of a hint as far as, you know, exploring more of the lore of the island. He sees this kid being held in a cage opposite of him, and he's trying to figure out what to do. And of course, we get some more classically hilarious Sawyer moments. And that's pretty much what we follow the episode doing.
Yeah, it was very much a catch-up episode, sort of a slow establishment. And I peeked ahead a bit. Okay, the next episode is going to be Jin and Sun episode after that, what the lock crew is doing, and then it slowly will start ramping up throughout the season. So we just have to get through this mini slog, just get through it, and still I don't know what the hell the others are doing. Like at this point, my main theory is that there's some kind of Illuminati type situation where they run the world, or they have access to things, or that they're from the future. These are my two current theories.
Without spoiling anything, because like I said, the thing that I really got to give you credit for is just how spot on you have been with predicting certain things about I mean, I will admit, you get to a certain point in watching the show and things just kind of become obvious. But the most notable takeaway as far as what the others are up to is when Juliet is talking to Jack, and basically, Jack is asking her about the Dharma Initiative. He's like, "Oh, so we're living in a leftover thing from the Dharma Initiative, right? Is that what you guys are? Are you guys like members of the Dharma?" And Juliet is like, "Oh, that was a long time ago." So that is the key indicator right there as far as what the others are really all about. Because like I said in the past, the two biggest things of note is that the Dharma Initiative was a scientific expedition that came in order to explore and do scientific experiments on the island, studying their weird electromagnetic energy that was going on in the hatch. And the others were the natives that lived on the island and were born on the island. Now, there was a lot of crossover between the two, but for the most part, those two factions have primarily stayed separate. And like I said, this is the season where we all get into the others and we finally start to explore and break down what they're all about, what it is that they want, what their plot motivation is. And I like how that ties into the title of the episode as well, A Tale of Two Cities, famously named after the Charles Dickens novel. That novel is an exploration all about different class structures and their differences between them. And the reason why I like that title is because it sets up the theme for the whole season, which is that despite some common similarities that they may have, ultimately there's a war brewing this season. And it's only going to end in one way ultimately because there is just too many slights that have been committed by both sides, you're going to see, not just the others against our main group of survivors. Because that's the other thing too also that's so crucially important about this season. For the most part, up until this point, we've really enjoyed watching our group of survivors on the island. No, we're led to presume that they're the good guys, but it's this thing that I actually heard Andy Greenwald talking about when he was talking about the final two seasons of Game of Thrones, which as many sins as those last two seasons committed. The one thing that it kind of pulled the wool over our eyes is, taking characters that we assume taking the multiple sets of good guys that haven't interacted yet across the show and automatically assuming that they're going to be on the same side when they eventually meet up, and seeing that's not always the case ultimately.
Yeah, that as many faults as there were, that was probably the best part of that seventh season, at least, where John and Danny finally meet, and you think, oh, they're gonna work together, and no, they have completely different motivations and things, and they have what the other needs, and then I'm excited to see how that transpires in this season in a less fantasy type setting. Although there is quite a bit of fantasy on this island already that we've experienced.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's like Lost. It answers one mystery and three more pop up. And what I like too about like the dynamic between our three main survivors that we're following this episode and the others is the fact that there's still like this playful back and forth, except for Ben, who is just all menace like all the time. Like you could just tell, like as soon as that guy's on, you're like, yeah, that guy is just the source of everybody's misery right now. Where he just like has a little playful look, like he always knows what's going on. He is always 10 steps ahead of everything. But
even in opening, he's already planned it out. Like, hey, you go, you run. If you run, you make. And like,
I love how it was already laying the seeds. It was like, oh, Goodwin, Ethan, the two people who were infiltrating, and I love how they set that up with Ethan was repairing Juliet's whatever on her house, and as soon as they saw the plane crash, he's like, Goodwin, he's like, you saw where the tail crash ended? Yeah, he's like, you can make it there in an hour. Go. He's like, Ethan, he's like, get to the main trail. There may be survivors. Lists in 3 days. Lists being the very key part. It goes all the way back to season 1 when Hurley was assembling the dossier list of everybody who was on the plane. But lists are going to be a very, very important season because I will admit, I believe I mentioned that there is a Jesus-esque figure living on the island whose name is Jacob. I don't remember if his name has been mentioned at this point, but this is the season where he is first referenced.
I haven't heard of Jacob yet.
This is the season where he is first referenced. And again, it takes us a while. Again, despite the fact that we now know that not only is Ben a member of the others, but Ben is the grand honcho, the leader of the others. Everybody has a boss. And while it does take a while, you do eventually discover what Ben's motivations are and what he is doing. But again, there's a reason why certain of the others, particularly Juliet, are not necessarily willing to go along with him. Because let's just say that Ben is one of those guys that takes his mission a little bit too seriously. Mostly, he's a little bit of a Tywin Lannister in that sense, in the sense of where he always prioritizes the greater good over the individual feelings of every person. And that is definitely his fatal flaw ultimately. But
yeah, I think that's how you build up a faction like this really well. You have the one guy who's like absolutely unturnable, and then you sprinkle in like various levels of doubt, like how you said Juliet. She's actually nice to Jack, somewhat at least. So maybe she's a bit turnable and stuff like that. And you sprinkle in the other characters like Tom, who's just full on like just a really good performance by
I mean, anytime you get
Gainey.
MC Gainey in anything, I mean, he's the fucking pilot prisoner in Con Air. He plays Boyd Crowder's dad in the first season of Justified. He's just one of those guys. Every time you see him, you know he's going to be entertaining as hell, and you know that he's just going to be a joy to watch, because he's just one of those guys where even when he's menacing, he's still just so much fun. Like when he is bringing Kate to the polar bear cages, and he sees Sawyer, and he's like, I figured out your little trap. He's like, oh, I see you got a fish biscuit. I love their back and forth there, because it's so hysterically playful, but like at the same time, it's also like there's this underlying menace of it's like I will kill you if I have to, And I love how he throws it back at Sawyer. He's like, yeah, it only took the polar bears 2 hours or something like that.
How many of them were there?
And he doesn't answer.
Really good stuff.
Yeah. Also, we get our first introduction to Carl as well, who is the kid opposite the cage in of Sawyer. And while we don't know who he is yet, he will play a little bit of a part. He does have ties to one Alex Russo, who we now know is Danielle's daughter. Her long lost daughter that's been kidnapped and now.
As soon as you say Alex Russo, I just think Selena Gomez.
That's fair.
Wizards.
That's fair. I'm wondering if David Lindelof was doing that a little purposefully. We know that he has a sense of humor for sure. But the big thing also too is this is another Jack flashback episode, and I want to know what you think of this Jack flashback, because I will say that there is a second Jack flashback that is coming later this season, and this is the one where the Jack flashbacks specifically start to get a little bit criticized, because they started to not recontextualize, but it felt like they were starting to kind of hamper a lot of the development that we'd seen so far with Jack. Obviously, yes, we knew Jack was a very tragic character. He was getting over the death of his father. Then we actually get into his father, Christian Shepherd, and we discover what a problematic figure he was. But now that we've kind of like gone down this line of, every father figure on this show fucking sucks. Jack's dad.
Now that we've cracked it,
Sawyer's dad. Son's dad. Kate's dad.
Michael.
I'm sure Michael's dad,
Michael
as a dad, exactly. Like everybody on this island with connections to their father just has a terrible relationship with their father. And I'm not going to say that, yes, okay, Jack screwed up his own relationship when we saw in the flashbacks in last season, but now we have the possible implications of, his dad might be the one that's sleeping with his wife, but he's in the wrong for taking the actions that he's doing. And then when he follows his dad to an AA meeting and attacks him there, and then his wife, he never gets the answer as far as whether or not. It's just one of those things where I'm like, what are we doing here? Like I said, I love Lost. I do. And the first 2 seasons really, really reminded me of why I loved Lost. But I will admit, season 3 is a lot of people's favorite season. I have a lot of problems with season 3. And this is kind of the beginning of it, where it's like, it was the last season of 20 plus episodes. The filler in this season, I remember, gets even more gratuitous than it did in season 2. And famously also, this is the last season of flashbacks for a reason, because you could tell that after a certain point, it felt like Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof were spinning their wheels when it came to it. And like I said, it's not that it doesn't still continue to add more context, but I feel like with Jack, and especially Locke, I will admit there's some interesting stuff that happens. Sawyer, I feel like we're spinning our wheels with stuff. Sun and Jin, there's still some more interesting stuff, but you could tell that they were starting to run out of material for the flashback stuff. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts on this were.
Yeah, I just felt like this one, at this point, I'm like losing track of, what order did all these Jack flashbacks? He's had the most, right?
Yeah.
I would assume, because I'm like losing track of when did his wife leave him? When did he discover his dad was drinking on a job? Things like that.
Right.
And then this one kind of feels just forced. Like Jack he needs someone to be mad at, and it happens to be his dad. But unfortunately, John Terry is just so effortlessly good.
Right.
Every time he shows up,
It's just because even after
yeah.
everything that he's done up until this point to prove that he is one of the worst human beings ever, it's like he had this entire affair and other family halfway around the world. He has been drunk and operating on people consistently, like repeatedly. What's it called? He literally just fucks off to Australia and just drinks himself to death. Like this is not a good guy. But because John Terry is such a good actor and he is so compelling, it's like it really is like a catch-22. It's like he can't win. He literally just cannot win.
Yeah, so essentially Jack, he needed to be mad at someone, and they just said, okay, we'll just try and make his dad even more of a worse guy, and it just felt a little off. Like, sure, it ties back into a good moment at the end where he just asks, is she happy? It's like, okay, you earned that somewhat.
Yes.
But ultimately, yeah, not my favorite.
Not the best flashback ultimately. But like I said, it does end on like a great moment with that little back and forth between Juliet and Ben, where he's like, "Thank you, Juliet," and his like little creepy voice, and she is just staring daggers at him, and you can tell like, it's set up at the beginning of the opening scene where you had the one dude who's criticizing her during book club for Carrie, which by the way, little self-insert there, Stephen King right there, exactly. Which by the way, fuck that guy for being like, oh, Carrie's just popcorn entertainment. It's like, okay, like how long have you lived on this island? When was the last time you interacted in civilization? But so it's set up there, but then at the end you can just see Juliet is staring daggers at Ben, like, oh, she hates this guy, and you're gonna find out why in the next couple of episodes. I think it's like episode like 7 or 8.
Club, and that's why he was asking about Stephen King in season 2. So clearly he's a big King fan.
He is a big Stephen King fan. Yeah.
I want to see the island library where they must get like a shipment from the outer world somehow.
Yeah, so like I said, a little bit of island lore. Also, it's revealed that they're in the next of the Dharma stations as well. When Jack realizes that, they're underwater when he tries to escape through the door, and it just like there's a bunch of water that floods in, and Juliet reveals, okay, this is called the Hydra. So I think this is like station number 1. I don't remember which station where it ranks in terms of all the Dharma stations. Like I said, we knew that our Hatch station was the Swan. We saw the Pearl, which was the question mark, where they went and they saw the psychological test. Now they see I can't remember what the name of the station was where they took Claire during maternity leave, and now we have this one, which is the Swan. Oh, sorry.
I will say, I got worried when they looked at the door. I'm like, you open that door, we all die. I'm like, no, don't not open the door for 20 episodes again.
Yeah.
Like,
no, thankfully they're not doing that. They're not doing that. They're like, okay, we're not having you push a button for 20 plus episodes until we finally tell you what's going on. We learned from our mistakes that season. We're not doing that again. So, yeah. But so like I said, it's a good intro episode. It's a good like action-based episode in order to try and launch us in. Then next week we'll spend time with Saeed, Sun, and Jin, and then the week after that is Locke, and then things are going to start all to tie together as well once we get into it. I will say,
and eventually, in the last 2 or 3, how many parts there are, they all come together.
Exactly. Yeah, episode 5. That's an important one to look out for as well. Once we get to that, the cost of living, which will be the final episode that we cover this month. But like I said, that's pretty much everything that we really need to cover for this episode. So without further ado, let's get into some movies. So you want to do Naked Gun or K-pop first?
Let's do Naked Gun. I feel like there's not a lot to talk about Naked Gun because it's just so many jokes, and it's better to experience the jokes.
You know what it is? It's one of those things where it's like if you saw the original, it's weird because it's one of those things where it's like I do have problems with it. I didn't end up. It's not like in my top 10 of the year like I thought it was gonna be. Like the trailers made it seem like it was gonna be. But in terms of if you understand what the Naked Gun is as a concept, this was everything that could have been and more. Updated for like a 2025 what's called rendition of it. You know, like if you've seen the original, you know exactly what's gonna happen. It's like there's barely a plot. Nothing is gonna be taken seriously. It's gonna be a joke a minute, and the comedy comes from the fact that the lead actor is taking it so beyond seriously that it just makes the situations even more ludicrous. And they could not have gotten a better person than Liam Neeson for this part, especially considering that, forget the how perfect he works for the movie. Liam Neeson needed a role like this after a decade and a half of doing Taken ripoffs. Because I lost track. Like every single time, and you always knew what it was going to be because every time my grandma recommended me a Liam Neeson movie, I knew exactly what it was going to be. It's like after the A-Team and the Clash of the Titans movies, it was like he did so many of these. It was and the titles just kept getting more and more ridiculous too. It was like A Walk Among the Tombstones, Cold Pursuit, The one
The
on the
ice
train,
road.
the ice one,
I
the
like
one
the
on the
ice road.
the one on the plane. Unknown. It's like they made so many of these, and it literally just became a run all night, and they literally just became a running joke after a while, to a point where they were like everybody in Hollywood was collectively making fun of it. I think there was a point where even Liam Neeson was in on the joke, and then he has that infamous disaster of a Good Morning America review where out of nowhere, unprompted, he starts talking about wanting to hunt down and beat up random black guys because his friend was assaulted by one. An infamous interview that he
How have I
famously.
missed this?
Oh wait, you never heard of this?
This
You've
might be
never
ringing a
heard of
bell,
this?
but it's not
No,
prominently.
there's no way you haven't heard of this. There's absolutely
I
no
might have
way
like
you
heard of
haven't
it.
heard of this.
I don't have like a clear picture
Oh,
in my
dude,
mind of it.
this is
I'll have to watch
this is
it.
a core memory for me from college, like a core memory where they were like, "Did you hear?" I don't even remember. I think no, you know what it was? It was for Widows when he was promoting that movie Widows, the Steve McQueen one with Viola Davis and Elizabeth Debicki and Michelle Rodriguez, and like that had a big cast. And famously, the whole thing was that Liam Neeson was making waves because they're like, "Oh my god, Liam Neeson's actually doing a drama. Holy shit, this is gonna be crazy." But and then out of nowhere, unprompted, like that's the thing too. The interviewer did not ask a question that led to this in any way, shape, or form. He just started being like, there was this one point in my life where my friend was assaulted by a black. And you could just see everybody in the background on Good Morning America just collectively being like, what? Like this is the shift in tone. It has to be seen to be believed. So that is a core memory. But famously, then he pops up on the 3rd season of Atlanta. Brian Tyree Henry's character just randomly runs into him in a bar, and I don't remember what city they're in, and he's just making a bunch of jokes about it. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is him apologizing for that. And so, he had famously collaborated with Seth MacFarlane a lot throughout his career. Famously appeared in both Ted movies and the Western that he did, A Million Ways to Die in the West, which is a very, very stupid movie. But I mean, just as soon as the trailers happen, you're like, oh, this is when he pulls off the mask. And by the way, there are multiple Mission Impossible jokes in this one. The Fallout one, as soon as they were in the hospital room with Kevin Durant, I'm like, I know exactly where this was going. And then they just kept upping the ante. Like, from when he pulls off the little girl mask to reveal himself and starts killing all the robbers, and that goes as silly as humanly possible, to the freaking I mean, there's too many jokes to keep track of. I think my 2 favorite jokes, besides the Mission Impossible one, and all the jokes that were in the trailers, which I will admit, that is one of my problems with the movie, is the fact that all of the funniest jokes they put in the trailer, and they kind of knew that, because I'm like, wait, but there are still like, it's great. There's the great tongue-in-cheek moments. There's the great visual gags. Just a joke every single minute. Like, the movie does not stop to give you pause for a second. But I think my favorite one is when he infiltrates the nightclub and he's going through like he fights off all the different like security guys, and he rips off the dude's arm and he starts like slapping him with it, and then he's going into the computer and he said the ads pop up for the muscle supplements, and it's like, I forget what they're called, like Gorilla Nuts and Muscle Slime or something like that. I think that was the moment where I was like visibly, audibly laughing like really hard. And I think my favorite part about this whole experience is the fact that you had an entire theater of people, and both people on both sides of me were laughing so hard that they were like audibly like could not breathe. Like, that's how hard people were laughing. And yeah, it was just, again, it's not the best movie of the year. It's not like the greatest comedy ever made, but in terms of just like a comedy that we needed, it's look no further than this. And I mean, you got the guy, I think the funniest member of the Lonely Island Trio, Akiva Schaffer, directing this, who also I believe directed Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stop, which is also the most underrated comedy of last decade. So yeah, this was a gem all around.
Yeah, I've seen the first one and ventured in the second and third one, but this was absolutely what a Naked Gun movie in the 2020s would look like. I think the shitposting genre has made a comeback with Hundreds of Beavers, and now this. Just we need more shitpost cinema really in our lives. But I absolutely adored it. So many jokes. I think considering how many jokes they have a very good hit rate.
Yes.
And I wish I could have seen this with an American audience, because I think a lot of people didn't get a lot of the jokes. There was the NFL joke, like, how did she pass? Oh, arm like a cannon, 45 yards. Oh, she sounds like a saint. Oh, she would have liked any team. The Broncos or the 49ers, nothing. I'm like, this is
You're like,
genius.
this is
But
awesome.
this is nothing to them. So yeah, I think with a full on American audience laughing,
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed it more. But still, I enjoyed it immensely. I just said the main reason it works because Liam Neeson is completely serious in
Yes.
everything that he does. Pamela Anderson is great. Paul Walterhausen as his partner is great. The PLOT device, like, that's the first joke of the movie. I'm like, okay,
as soon as that happened, I mean, I didn't want to have to wait too long during the bank robbery for us to get to the obvious setup of the little girl prancing into the bank and pulling off the mask and revealing herself to be Liam Neeson. But as soon as Kevin Durant, again, one of the most unfortunate actor names ever, he's not the basketball player, pulls out the fucking plot device, that I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, this is one of the best of the year. And the fucking when they have the montage with the snowman, and then they have that whole thing where that goes. Oh man, it's just like where they have
the claw machine picking up the car.
The freaking
there's so much in the movie.
When Danny Houston hijacks the car and tries to drive it into the bay, and he does the kicking out the windshield bit, and then he crashes into the cloud, and then the windshield suckers perfectly back. I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. And then he just gets Dave Bautista in there randomly to stand in for him at the end. And also the fact that they, no shame at all, rip off they absolutely just steal the plot device from Kingsman, where it's like, yes, we're going to use this device. It's going to emit radio waves and it's going to cause everybody to fight and kill each other. I'm like, that's literally the third act of Kingsman, but like, they know it and they don't care. So, oh man, yeah, it was, like I said, just thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I was having a hard time breathing when I came out of that theater. That's how hard I was laughing. But yeah, easy 4 out of 5 stars. It's not quite a 4.5, but yeah, I had a really, really good time.
I think with a movie like this, that's the ceiling. Like 4 stars. Like, there's hardly a plot, hardly any character work. It's just like how many jokes can land.
Pretty much,
and pretty much most of them did.
Yeah, and their hit rate did. Like I said, the biggest thing that it has going against it is probably the funniest jokes were in the trailer. Like, nothing is ever going to beat that first reveal of that line of cops all down the window, and then the one black cop looking at the picture of O.J. Simpson, looking at the camera and shaking his head. I don't think anything's ever going to beat that joke, but there were some pretty fucking great jokes in this, for sure. Just again, the visual wordplay is key here, where it's like every single possible thing that's an innuendo, they just completely get confused.
I think honestly, you could just write it as like a regular bad cop movie, and then you've already written like half of it. With
literally, that's the thing. That's
taking things literally.
That's the joke, is the fact that, again, they take an instance of where it's like, oh, we literally just write a bad movie purposefully, but then we frame it as a comedy, and that's where it's hysterical. But it works either way, because even if this was phrased as a quote-unquote drama without the million jokes, and oh my god, the New Year's Eve balls, just like, oh my god, perfect, just perfect. Cherry on top of this absolute gem of a movie. And then, of course, when he's fighting with Danny Houston and he punches him, he's like, have you ever actually been in a fight? It's like, oh, my tummy hurts. It was great. It was great. 4 out of 5 easily. What do you give it?
Also 4 out of 5. I think it finally knocked How to Train Your Dragon out of my top 10. I'm like, I enjoyed it, but it should not be in my top 10. No. So
I'm sorry. I would have. I mean, you know how much respect I would have been a little bit like, oh, why? Yeah. If How to Train Your Dragon was still in your top. I mean, I know this has been an abnormally weak year, but like, still,
there's still some stuff I haven't seen, but
there's still a lot of stuff that's coming out later this year. A lot of which I will be watching at Toronto. Fingers
most
crossed.
Of which is not coming out here.
That's true. So. That's true. Oh man,
it's weapons or bust for me.
Speaking of movies that are not coming out in your frame of the world, Together, the new movie that was the smash hit at Sundance, the latest horror movie from Neon, who has pretty much solidified themselves in the horror bubble. The next movie starring married couple Dave Franco and Allison Brie, but the one is not directed the other this time, because famously Dave Franco directed his wife Allison Brie in 2020's The Rental and 2023's Somebody I Used to Know. This movie is directed by Michael Shanks. It is about a married couple that is going through a little bit of a tough time relationship-wise as they move from the big city to the suburbs when they go on an unfortunate hiking trip, and the next thing you know, weird things start happening. They find themselves start to be literally glued together. This movie was praised for its massive amount of crazy body horror, and I went into this movie with healthy skepticism, as I do go into everything, and I have to say that for the most part, yeah, if you've seen John Carpenter's The Thing, you've seen pretty much everything that there is in this movie. It is The Thing, but with the toxic relationships twist to it, and it has an ending that I will say I don't necessarily know if it builds to it well enough. I will say that this is another movie where all of the best body horror bits they put in the trailer, except for a few. There are some interesting components to it. I think the best thing this movie has going for it is Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who to my knowledge are pretty happily married in real life, really making us and convincing us that they are going through a tough time, and they are a couple that really should not and does not want to be together, but by virtue of this force that they interact with once they've moved to the countryside, they are literally like attached together through forces that are out of their control. And you also have that element of, the small town, like kind of loneliness and weirdness, like once you get away from the big city. But the ultimate problem that this movie has going for it is that, unlike The Thing, which purposefully isolates itself from society, like there's a very specific reason as to why they do that. This movie, it's very clear they did it for budgetary reasons and because they were trying to make greater homages and allusions to the whole small town feel. The problem is the movie ultimately sets up too many questions that it either just doesn't bother answering or doesn't feel or cannot answer by virtue of its budget and what it is ultimately focused on. And there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that make me go, what? Why did that just happen? And also there's the fact that, for me personally, this may be a me thing, but there's an opening scene that involves dogs. And the dogs basically go through these two dogs basically go through everything that Dave Franco and Alison Brie end up going through throughout the movie. The problem is, if you've seen this very, very iconic sequence with dogs from The Thing, you know exactly what's going to happen. And they pretty much tell you exactly what's going to happen in the movie throughout the rest of it. So for those reasons alone, I can't necessarily say that this is one of my favorites and one of the better movies of the year. I kind of just have to say that it is just solid and okay, which is why I only give it 3.5. Also, the fact that, I don't know, Dave Franco is somebody who I prefer when he's being very poppy and very energetic. And while he is a good actor, he gives a very specific type of great performance. And he doesn't have a lot of range is the problem, versus Alison Brie can pretty much do anything. And so these are just two people who are very, very good at being very energetic and spontaneous. And when I have to see them essentially being miserable together and basically forcing this relationship that it's very clear that one is not at all invested in anymore, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily want to watch this, So that's as much as I can say without spoiling it and going in depth with it. I'll be interested to see once you have access to this movie, once you see because I feel like a lot of people's enjoyment of this movie comes down to the shock and awe of the body horror sequences and whether they're able to see past that for the actual story and plot, because that's the other big problem that I have. The metaphor of this movie, which is right in the title, together, is very obvious and very on the nose, and I'm just gonna leave it at that because, like I said,
I've seen what's it called, The Substance. I wonder if that came just a year too early for this movie to really shine.
It did, is what I will say. It did, because The Substance was like and also I will say that in terms of the gore, The Substance easily topped it. But also I think The Substance is dealing with more interesting subject matter. The idea of aging women specifically, and how they are kind of cast aside by the elite, and how they are attempting to maintain their youth and all the problems that come from that. Versus this one is just like, married couple that clearly all the life has gone out of the marriage. That's it. It's literally it. That's all there is to it. So yeah, that's really all there is. It's really all I can say about it. Like I said, I wish I could have gotten into it more, but I couldn't ultimately at the end of the day. But now we have the phenomena that has taken over the world. And I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because this is one of those things where I should have seen coming. The problem is that goddamn Netflix algorithm. I never know what's going to be a hit. And I didn't know if this was going to be a brief flash in the pan, like my favorite animated movie that Netflix has put out that is 6 years old this year, Klaus, or if this was going to be the global hit phenomenon that it has become, and that is K-pop Demon Hunters, which I saw the trailer for this, and I'm like, oh, this looks like really fun and upbeat. It's like, you know, it's mixing like a lot of the cartoons that I like. It's mixing elements of like Powerpuff Girls and Totally Spies with like the Teen Titans-esque, like, you know, I forget that type of animation. It's like that midway point between anime and American animation, but it's got the Spider-Verse animation to it too. It's about like these three it's about these three pop star girl band members who are also like demon fighters as well, and they have to fight against this group of demons who are posing as this rival boy band. But then it turns out that the lead member of the girl pop band has a secret of her own that ends up causing her to fall in love with the lead member of the demon band. And I'm like, ooh, this is scintillating and tantalizing. And I watched it the weekend that it came out. It was like back in June. It was a while ago that it came out. And I absolutely loved it, had an absolute blast with it, recommended it to my sister. My sister watched it, showed it to my niece. They both loved it. They loved it so much that my sister sent me a video of my niece reacting to it because that's how much they loved it. And next thing you know, I see them covering under the ringer, and I'm like, oh, this thing has become a smash hit. Like when I'm seeing now the memes, the reactions, the TikTok videos, everyone's like, oh, which Huntrix member are you? The reactions to all the songs. I've been listening to the songs on repeat. So you watched it just recently. What did you think of K-pop Demon Hunters?
I think been a good year for music fighting against monsters between this and Sinners.
Yeah.
So it's really good. Like you could easily brush this off. Oh, keep K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? That shouldn't work. But it does it. Like you said, it's a Spider-Verse-esque animation. Like it's not exactly that. It's basically just, hey, we don't have to not everything has to look like Pixar movie kind of thing, which I'm very thankful for. So I mean,
if anything, that kind of bit Pixar in the asses here because nobody went and saw Elio.
Yeah,
nobody.
And I saw the trailer for Hoppers, and then they all look like that again. So anyway, back to this. But no, they build up like a little bit of lore. Like, oh, every generation has a band of girls to protect the world from the demons. They have to reach a certain level and release this golden. I forget what they call it.
I don't remember what the golden essence is, but essentially it's it's the Harmoon, I think is what it's called. Something like that. Something like that. And
they have to reach a certain level of unity, of harmony to protect the world from demons. And then why is this movie different? Well, one of the girls is part demon, and then that's a really good message of like, oh, accepting your flaws and kind of thing. So. And the soundtrack's freaking awesome, man.
Baller fucking soundtrack.
Listening to it the whole
my God.
time. Like,
Golden, Takedown.
Golden is such a power anthem.
Yeah,
like,
it really is. And it's one of those things where I was listening to another review and somebody was like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they make every song a banger, which is so hard to do. Even the fucking Saja Boy songs like Soda Pop, which
it's so catchy.
It's so catchy. And it's like, oh God, are the demon influences working on me now too? What is happening
and their villain song is like even better.
It's great. And like, I will admit, it is very classic Disney in the sense of where, a lot of the conflict can be forced, but the way that they're building up to it naturally, it's like, and also you could tell that like there was a lot of stuff that was left on the cutting room floor because it's like, oh, who was Rumi's mom? Who was the one who is her dad, Guima, the evil demon, voiced by Lee Byung-hun from Squid Game. Also,
we have
Jin and Sun are both in this movie. And Sun. Yeah, Sun is her mom. No, her aunt, the one who trained her, and then the one who admonishes her at the end. That's Sun. So both Jin and Sun are in this movie. You get Ken Jeong from The Hangover and Community as their manager, Bobby. I loved it. It was great. But like I said, the dynamic, the unity between the three girls, like I said, it's if you've seen the Powerpuff Girls and Totally Spies, you know exactly the dynamic. This is every time you get like three centralized girls, is always that you have the leader who's the balanced one with the secret, you have the bubbly one, and you have the goth one. And it's just a matter of which one you relate to more. But yeah, this was a boatload of fun. I had a big old smile on my face watching it the whole time. It's very much made for kids, and it's not exactly breaking the wheel. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it also is playing into styles and sensibilities that Gen Zers have. It's not trying to remake the classic. It's very similar to Minecraft, where even though I'm not going to watch something like Minecraft is finally something that understands the kid audience that is coming up today. It's not trying to remake an 80s classic for a modern audience or something that we had growing up for a modern audience, you know, like Like, they understand that kids are very much into anime, very much into gaming. K-pop has become a modern phenomenon. Like,
ever since Gangnam Style,
yes,
so many years ago,
oh my
like
God,
you couldn't escape it, and now
oh
it's
my God, I think there were kids that were
K-pop.
born when Gangnam Style came out that are in high school now. So put that in perspective. But
I'd
yeah,
rather not.
it's frightening. Trust me. Once you start thinking like that, I've been thinking like that for a while. That's when you realize, oh, I'm old.
Like, Tom Holland will have been Spider-Man for 10 years next year
Yep.
when his movie comes out. So
When Brand New Day. Oh my God. We got to stop this. This is not a good rabbit hole to fall down. But yeah, it's let me put it this way. It's once you see it, there's a reason why you understand why it becomes a global phenomenon, and it makes you happy, especially now that they're working on not only one but two sequels, which will both be released on Netflix. The only thing that was interesting point that I didn't know is this is what I did not know. This was not a Netflix original. This was a Sony animated production that they sent directly to Netflix, and I believe this is their fourth one of those that they've done, because famously Sony, the only movie studio without a streaming service, they struck that deal with Netflix during COVID, where they were going to be, where Netflix was going to get a first look release at their animated movies. And this all started with that movie, The Mitchells versus the Machines, that was supposed to come out during COVID and then came out on Netflix in 2021. But so I just wonder, like, what do you think, like, the implications of that are? Do you think that even matters, or no? It's because it's like, yeah, because Netflix unfortunately cannot be beaten, and considering how much movie theaters are struggling, considering that Fantastic Four had one of the worst second week drop-offs I think of any Marvel movie ever recently. Like, do you think that really matters at all as far as the whole theatrical versus streaming of this?
I don't know. I think that Netflix is in their little bubble of like, oh, every time someone watches a movie, it's actually two people watching a movie, or whatever that thing is. But I think they love their when something is really popular, and they think, okay, we need to invest in this, we need to make it on Netflix. Like, they are completely against the theater release model. Knives Out, that's not coming out in theaters either,
unless they need to put it in theatrical for 2 weeks so it can qualify for Oscars. That's the only time that
doesn't count. That doesn't count.
We know.
But yeah, like with the MCU thing, like, that was a pretty steep drop. I think that's more of a how much audiences really distrust Marvel after all this fiasco.
Yeah. The fact that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, arguably their two best movies in years, have suffered box office wise. Like, Thunderbolts, I don't even know if that hit like 400 million, and Fantastic Four, and I think that shit's got to hit like 600-700 million in order to even break even. And it is worrisome, the fact of how little money it's made this second weekend.
Yeah, but anyway, Sony, as like you said, Sony, they don't have a streaming platform, and unless they want to spend the budget to put
which
this
I think they are honestly, I think that they are doing exactly what they need to, because not only are they saving money by putting it on Netflix, but if anything, I feel like it's reaching a wider global platform. Because
this wouldn't be in theaters.
Yeah, how many people would have even bothered to watch this if it was in theaters? And then you would have just had the same result.
Not an existing IP. It doesn't like have a Sony, like, okay, they have Spider-Verse, but they're not like a powerhouse studio,
right,
like Illumination or DreamWorks, or even DreamWorks puts out some crap every now and then.
Yeah.
For every wild robot, there's like 3 absolute.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, DreamWorks next year is putting out Shrek 5. Like, come on.
Yeah, and then they just had How to Train Your Dragon, and that was a success. So who knows where that's going to go? So anyway, keep up, Demon Hunters. Great movie.
Yes,
everyone go watch it.
Full send on this one. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5 easily. This was it was bouncing back and forth between this and F1 for my number 10 before I saw Fantastic Four, and then Fantastic Four kind of knocked them both out. But those two were like still very much circling it. So. Yeah, like I said, we covered a lot this episode. We had a lot of stuff to do, but like I said, it's going to be an interesting August. We got some interesting movies as we start to transition away from the summer and into the fall season. Like I said, Fantastic Four was really the end of the big summer blockbuster season. We have Weapons next week, and so we're going to see how that goes. Like I said, you're coming on for Weapons, right?
Oh yeah, I think Weapons is the only thing at this point that can challenge Sinners.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting one. So because I have a couple of people lined up for that. So if this goes the way that I'm thinking it goes, we could potentially have a 5-person panel next week for Weapons. And if Weapons is as good as I'm hearing it could be, oh man, like this movie better fucking deliver is all that I'm going to say. So tune in next.
For everything I've heard, everyone who's seen it has, I think it's still sitting at 100% on the tomato.
Yeah, which is nuts. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens once we have the audience score to compare to the critic score. But still, like, Yeah, this better fucking deliver is all that
I'm
say.
watching the clips and I'm like, okay, oh my god, all these, it's like Thanos is talking to the Silver Surfer.
Yep.
Wong is running at them.
And Han Solo's in there as
also-
the police officer. And wait, isn't Paul Walter Hauser in that one too? Or no?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't think he is, but I thought that he was just randomly popping it because like Paul Walter Hauser is just so cool. Literally, I didn't realize this. Did you know that Paul Walter Hauser reviews movies, including the movies that he is in, on Letterboxd?
I didn't know. I know there's like a few actors on Letterboxd. I didn't
No,
know
but
he
dude,
was one of them.
if you get a chance, go and read some of Paul Walter Hauser's reviews. He is one of the best for a reason. At the end of the day, but what's it called? So with that being said, those were our reviews for Naked Gun, K-Pop Demon Hunters together, and our breakdown of the season 3 premiere of Lost. So with that being said, people, be sure to keep tuning in next week and for the rest of the year as we continue to break down Lost season 3 and we start to transition into some of the Oscar movies. September will be a little bit of a Lost specific month, considering that I will be in Toronto for the first week of September for Toronto International Film Festival. That's right, your boy got a press pass. Talkin TV is officially solidified on the Toronto press circuit. We'll see if New York Film Festival feels the same way, but Luke, thank you once again for joining me. We are going to finish out this year strong with season 3. Then we are going to wrap Talkin' Lost next year in 2026 with all the releases that come out next year. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
You can follow me at Luke Reviews on YouTube. Again, busy times, not a lot of work to be done there, but I think it's gonna be a good top 10 video. Like, throw Avatar in there. But like after that trailer, it's like, no way, that's not gonna be in the 10. Like, I'll watch Jake and Quaritch fight for 10 movies. Like, it's peak every time.
Yeah, exactly. And especially since I heard that Jake is going to be more hard edge and more jaded after the death of his oldest son. I'm like, ooh. And like I said, the Fire Clan, ooh.
And people are thinking like Quaritch is gonna end up with a fire lady. It's like, ooh, that's an interesting
spicy stuff right there.
Go for his character. Where he's been all human first, and now he's in this.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
It looks like he's been converted to the Navi. Yeah, that's gonna be like a 2-hour long episode just on Avatar. People are gonna be like, wait, how can you talk about Avatar for 2 hours? It's like, you don't get it. Cameron, he has the sauce. He knows what he's doing. It doesn't matter. We're not watching these movies for the plot. We're not.
Yeah.
We're watching it for the tone of the vibe.
General audiences are ultimately very bad for the cinema industry.
Yes.
Like, they pick the wrong thing, but when it comes to Avatar, that's like the one thing they know what to do.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, is all that I'm going to say. So, you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Make sure you guys check out the Scarlett Johansson Hall of Fame that Dustin and I did last night. We're going to be hitting the Liam Neeson Hall of Fame this coming week. And with that being said, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and get lost. We'll see you guys next week.